The bar is lower than you think. And what I mean by that is the barrier to success, how much you have to go to succeed and achieve your goals, is actually less than what it may seem. And I'll explain why. And I'll use a story that my mentor told me that made me have this like light bulb moment. So essentially my mentor was hiring people for a like software role. And essentially he got around 800 applicants, but he could only pick one. And so if you see this as a job post and you see the fact that there's 800 people going for it, but there's only one position, you might think, oh, that's hard. That's like basically impossible. Like what's 1 out of 800? Like, one sec. That's 0.1%. And so you might think, okay, this role is basically going to be impossible to get. But he said that this wasn't actually the case. And so here's what actually happened. So 800 people did apply. But when he looked at the applications, around 600 of these 800 had spelling mistakes. And so they were automatically cut out. Like at this level, if you have spelling mistakes or some just very low level error like that, then you're immediately just removed. So 800 went to 200 because all those 600 got removed. And then when my boss looked at the 200, he looked at the ones that had relevant qualifications that were actually stated on the role. And it turned out half of them were not actually qualified for the role. And so it went from 200 to 100. Okay, so what next? Well, then my boss looked at the 100 applicants and reached out to them via a message. And the thing is, only 20 of them responded. So 100 went to 20. And it was crazy to think, okay, if you applied for this job, why did you not respond? That's the thing. Some people forget about it. Some people just don't care. Other people apply for like multiple jobs. And so they may have gone with the offer already. And so 100 essentially went down to 20. And then after like my mentor messaged them and set up an interview, 20 went to 10 because only 10 of them signed up and accepted the interview. And so there was 10 left. And then what happened was of the 10 that got an interview offer, only 7 of them showed up. So 3 of them just didn't come. And so there were seven left. And so he only did 7 proper interviews for this one role. And so essentially the odds are technically 1 out of 7. But if you just look at it from the surface, it's 1 out of 800. 1 out of 7 is, like, how much is 1? Can't do maths. 14%. So 14%, obviously, it's not always going to be high, but 14% is much higher than 0.1%. And so the reason I'm sharing this story with you is because for any opportunity, it may seem much harder than it actually is. But you have to remember that not everyone is going to be switched on. Not everyone is going to treat this opportunity as much as you are. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, there's only going to be a small pool of people that you're actually competing against. And so the bar is actually very low. And my mentor was telling me like just some advice. And he was basically saying like, okay, this is probably not very helpful, but he was just like, just be good. And so the follow-up to that was he told me to just keep learning as much as possible. Find people that are ahead of you in life and ask them for mentorship, ask them for advice, because that will greatly fast track the progress that you can make. And so that's the story I want to share with you, that the bar is much lower than you think. And if you just dedicate yourself to learning as much as possible, then you'll be able to have great success in life.